Hello, and welcome to True Crime Daily's Crime Check, bringing you news and updates in quick, bite-sized videos. I'm Stephanie Harlowe, co-host of the True Crime Weekly podcast. It's November of 2021, and let's see what we have on the docket. Our first case brings us to Iowa, where 30-year-old Rachel Reuter was reported missing by her father on June 16, 2021. This month, November 2021, 46-year-old James Shiloh Cleaver was arrested and charged with first-degree murder in the disappearance and presumed death of Rachel. When Rachel's father reported her missing, he told the Urbandale Police Department that he had not spoken to her since June 12th, and it was abnormal for her to go that long without reaching out to her family. All Rachel's father knew was that she had gone to stay at a Super 8 motel in Urbandale on June 11th. Surveillance footage from that Super 8 motel showed Rachel leaving the motel with a man on June 12th. They got into his white Hyundai Veloster and drove away at around 11:40 a.m. An application for a search warrant reports that James Cleaver told police he had last seen Rachel Reuter on the evening of June 12th. Cleaver claimed that Rachel was meeting someone there to exchange sex for money, but he could not give investigators an address or even an approximate location. However, the cell phone records of both Cleaver and Rachel Reuter told a much different story. After leaving the motel, both Rachel and Cleaver's phones traveled to a quick trip in Des Moines where Cleaver met up with a man. Surveillance footage from this business revealed that there was a woman in Cleaver's car with him at that time, but it has not been confirmed whether or not this was Rachel Reuter. At 3:56 p.m., the phones pinged at a Walmart in Altoona where Rachel's EBT card was used, but Rachel was not seen on surveillance, only James Cleaver was. But on June 13th, it appeared that both phones were located at an address on Snyder Road in Bondurant. This is a home owned by a woman whose name has not been revealed, but who told investigators that James Cleaver came running into her house at around 12:30 in the morning, asking for her help. He allegedly claimed that he was with a woman who had done some drugs and gone crazy. The woman who lived at that house also told police that she heard what sounded like a wild animal in her garage, and this scared her, so she told James Cleaver to leave and take the woman with him, but he allegedly responded that the woman in the garage was not moving and he didn't know what to do with her. This same day at 3:32 a.m., Rachel's phone accessed the Lyft app, and this was the last documented usage on Rachel's phone, but there are no records of her phone actually requesting a Lyft ride. From June 15th on, multiple witnesses have claimed to have seen and or spoken to James Cleaver. On June 15th, Cleaver arrived at the home of an acquaintance in Bethany, Missouri, and he allegedly said that there were people looking for him, and he wanted to know if he could hide his car in the garage of this home. The witness reported that Cleaver's hand was injured, but Cleaver said he could not go to the hospital. According to investigators, Cleaver told this witness that he had killed a woman and a man at a motel before putting their bodies in the trunk of his car and disposing of them on land owned by his family. On June 18th, James Cleaver showed up at his parents' home, and they stated he had a broken hand and he was walking with a limp. According to court documents, James Cleaver also paid visits to both his son and daughter in mid-June. Cleaver's son told police that his father had come to his house with a broken hand or wrist, and the son had noticed that his father's car had a foul odor coming from it, as if rotten meat had been left in the car, along with copious amounts of cologne. The son told investigators that James Cleaver had confessed to killing a woman by first attempting to stab her, but when he found out that the knife was too dull, he hit her with a baseball bat. In this version of events, Cleaver allegedly claimed he had put the body in his trunk and disposed of it in Canesville, Mississippi. Also, sometime in June, Cleaver went to visit his daughter. He was riding a motorcycle, and he asked if she would give him a ride to a storage unit, which she did. She reported he came back to her house later in his Hyundai Veloster, and she decided to look into his car because her brother had informed her prior to this that their father had stolen something from him. She reported that the trunk of the car had a strong smell of bleach, and she also found a small bottle of bleach in the trunk. James Cleaver's ex-wife also gave investigators some interesting information when she told them the following August that she remembered one time, while she and Cleaver were still married, he had shown her his grandparents' property in Canesville, and he had remarked that this would be a good place to hide a body. Authorities have revealed that this property has since been sold and no longer belongs to the family of Cleaver. On August 22nd, the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation executed a search warrant on James Cleaver's vehicle. They found that the trunk had been extensively cleaned, but when a trim panel inside the trunk was removed, they found hundreds of flies and fly remnants, and these fly remnants reportedly tested positive for human blood. Investigators believe that James Cleaver killed Rachel Reuter in the early morning hours of June 13, 2021, at the house in Bondurant, but Rachel's remains have not yet been found. Authorities are seeking the public's assistance in locating Rachel's remains, so anyone who may have had contact with Rachel Reuter or James Cleaver in June is being urged to contact the Polk County Sheriff's Office at 515-286-3334. Our next case brings us to Ohio, where 22-year-old Alicia Pointer had been lured from her house in North Randall by a group of people. She was allegedly abducted and tortured for information connected to the shooting death of Aminyas Shomo that had happened on November 2, 2021. Reports state that this group of people had abducted a friend of Alicia's and then used this friend to get Alicia out of her house. So apparently they pulled up to her house, they had this friend call Alicia to have her come outside, and then they grabbed Alicia. They did this allegedly because they believed that Alicia's boyfriend had been involved in the shooting or had information about it, and they wanted Alicia to tell them where her boyfriend was. Her body was later found in the basement of a burned-out home on Savannah Avenue in East Cleveland, Ohio, and the medical examiner ruled that her death had been caused by multiple gunshot wounds. 7 people who law enforcement believe were involved in Alicia Pointer's murder have been identified, 6 have been arrested, and 4 have already been arraigned. But one is still on the loose. This man, 18-year-old Hakeem Ali Shomo, was related to the victim of the November 2nd shooting death, and he is believed to be the leader of this group. The 4 suspects who have been charged and arraigned in the death of Alicia Pointer are 18-year-old Anthony Bryant, who was still in high school at the time of this crime, 22-year-old Nathaniel Polk Jr., 30-year-old Portria Bryant, and a woman named Brittany Smith. 2 other women have been arrested in relation to this murder, India Paldo and 17-year-old Destiny Henderson. The 4 suspects who have been arraigned are being held on $2 million bond, and they have pleaded not guilty. Officials say the assailants tortured Alicia and took her to several locations before finally killing her on Savannah Avenue. East Cleveland police have asked anyone with information on where Hakeem Ali Shomo may be should call the U.S. Marshals tip line at 1-866-4-WANTED, and a $5,000 reward has been offered for his capture. The authorities believe that there is going to be an intensive manhunt for Shomo, and soon there will be no place left for him to hide. Alicia's cousin, Shella Smith, who is heartbroken, along with the rest of Alicia's family, told reporters, quote, "She didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that at all, and I hope every last one of you rot in hell," end quote. Our final case for today brings us to Denver, Colorado, where several members of a family, including a 2-year-old girl and an infant, were killed in a fire that had been intentionally set in the early morning hours of August 5th, 2020. Shortly after the fire, Denver police released security photos of people seen in the area around the time that the fire was set, and these people had been wearing hoodies and full face masks. The masks were tracked back to a Party City in Lakewood, where they had been purchased just hours before the fire was set. On January 27, 2021, 3 teenagers were taken into custody in connection with the fire. Gavin Seymour, who was 16 at the time of the crime, Kevin Bew, who was also 16 at the time of the crime, and a minor whose name has not been revealed because he was just 15 in August of 2020. Detective Neil Baker with the Denver Police Department testified in court that Kevin Bew had confessed to setting the fire because he thought the people who lived there had stolen his phone. Apparently, in July of 2020, Kevin had been robbed while he was attempting to buy a gun near City Park. Reports do not say what was taken from Kevin during this alleged robbery, but it is assumed that his phone was one of the things taken because he then used the Find My Phone feature to track the stolen phone to the Green Valley Ranch area in Denver. And at that point, he and his two accomplices poured gasoline inside the home and set the residence on fire before fleeing in a dark-colored sedan. In the days leading up to the fire, it has been reported that Kevin Bew sent messages to his friends in regard to the crime he was planning. One message said, quote, "They're going to get theirs like I got mine." And in an August 2nd text message, Kevin Bew wrote, hashtag possibly ruin our futures and burn his house down. Sort of a lengthy hashtag. I don't think that it's going to hit the trending page anytime soon, but okay. It was in the days after the fire, when the news was reporting on it, that Kevin realized the people who had stolen his phone were not the people in the house he had burned down. The father of the 6-month-old baby who had died in the blaze sat in the courtroom during the hearing, but he ran out in tears when the prosecutor described how the victims had died. All 5 had died from smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide poisoning, and the baby had been found in her mother's arms. The suspects are facing a total of 60 charges each, including first-degree murder with extreme indifference, attempted murder with extreme indifference, and burglary and assault with a deadly weapon. That is going to complete our Crime Check for today. Crime Check is a place where we bring you news and updates in quick bite-sized videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates, and we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section. Until next time, stay safe out there.